Hey guys, welcome back. I just completed the eJPT examination recently, and in this video I'm going to share my experience, and I'm also going to help you how you can pass the eJPT certification. So the first thing that I highly recommend you to read before you start the examination is the letter of engagement. So you have this letter of engagement available before you start the examination. You'll be able to get these from the INE website. Before clicking start exam, there will be a short description there. You have to click the letter of engagement, or else you can just watch this video and understand that. Okay, so the first thing that you need to understand is about the exam lab configuration. So this is a browser-based lab environment, and you will have, say, browser-based Kali Linux setup, a Linux operating system. That is something that you know, right? So you are also doing some practical task, right? In the eJPT lab environment, it's the same like that, and you have to use the Searchsploit tool because the lab environment does not have any internet connection. So if you want to find an exploits, then you can just use the Searchsploit like tools. So and if you want to search for something, if you want to get some information, then you can just use your own internet connection and outside of the lab environment. Okay, so the things that I would like to demonstrate is not everything that you're seeing here, but I would like to talk to you the really important things that you definitely need to know. But because I'm not going to read every thing, this is something that I highly recommend you to read it by yourself, but today I'm going to explain the most important things from this. Okay, so you will have some syntax dynamics, so you can just read that by yourself. Okay, so in this case we have some scope of engagement, and you will be connected to the DMC network, so you have to find other devices in the same network, and you have to gain access by exploiting various vulnerabilities, perform brute force attacks, and find the misconfigurations of vulnerabilities and gaining access. Like that is what you want to do. So I will going to show you how you can do that also in this video. So don't skip this video, guys. So if you skip this video, then you might miss something important. So yeah, so please note the following diagram is a guideline and does not reflect to the actual exam network configuration. So basically you are in the DMC network, so you can just use tools like ARP scan to find the IP addresses in your network, and you do have a lot of IP addresses in your network, and one of them has an internal network in it that you can't access in your DMC network. So you have to gain access to some of the missions, and then you will be able to gain access to the internal network. After that, you can just gain access to the internal network too, like that. Okay, so let's move on, and these are some of the tools that is recommended to know, and there are tools outside this also that you should definitely need to know in some scenarios. So yeah, and the recommended word list for you to perform this is the rock.txt, which is located in this user share word list location. You can just use these, and important part is brute force or dictionary attacks takes more than 20 to 30 minutes to complete. If it takes that, then it pretty much means that you are using the incorrect word list, or you are doing something wrong. So it will not take I think in my personal experience, nothing take more than 5 minutes. So maybe in your case, if the questions are different, maybe it will be different, but in my case, nothing takes more than 5 minutes to crack the password or get things like that. Okay, so you have some hints for a successful penetration test. This is not a capture the flag. At last I was able to submit the flags, and you do have something to investigate, and a lot of things is there in it. So you can just take notes. So you can just use tools like Notepad to take your notes. It's your choice to use whichever notes taking application that you would like to use. So in my case, I just use the Notepad to save those things during the penetration testing, during the things that I found like passwords, because terminal get messed up. So I just store things in the Notepad. You can just use any of those that you would like to use. So this is something that I would like to talk with you in the beginning, so you can just read this entirely so by yourself, so that you will have some better understanding. So this is mandatory, so that is why I just read that, otherwise you might get stuck. Okay, so now let's move on to the Linux. So first, in case you have to know, so in the eJPT lab environment, in labs or the skill task, you will get a target IP address or demo.ini.local or target.ini.local, like that, right? But in the examination you don't have something like that. So that is what the letter of engagement says. You have to find the vulnerable things in your network. So you will get a mission, like this is a mission, assume that this is an exam environment. So you will get this mission and you have to find the missions in the network. So I will use the ARP scan. You can just use any other scan that you would like to use, like the Net Discover or whatever scanning tool that you would like to use. In this case, I use the ARP scan to get the IP address on my network, and you do get a lot of IP address like this. So in this case, I've been selecting one. So and after that, I'm just performing an Nmap scan to know more information about it. So just a basic Nmap scan which revealed me some information, right? So in this environment, if you want to really pass the examination, then you have a great understanding of Nmap tool. So that is mandatory, and how you can just use this tool is also mandatory. What is the purpose of using this tool is also mandatory. Yeah, you have to find the IP address in your network, so that is what we use this tool. And in my case, I will get a tons of IP. You will not get a lot of IP, but you will get probably I think 5 or 6 or something like that IP addresses in your network. That is what you need to perform penetration testing for. So, and you have to know how to use the Nmap tool to get information, like you want to know what is aggressive scan, what are the things it will do for you, what is Nmap service version, what is the Nmap script scanning, and these are some of the basics that you definitely need to know in Nmap. Yeah, the basics is recommended. So I have a dedicated playlist for eJPT for anyone starting eJPT. In our channel we have everything that you want to pass the examination, all the labs that you should complete. So like in our playlist you will be able to see that the option from here, the eJPT preparation playlist, you can just view this playlist and you will have a lot of things, like from TreeHackMe, the tool stress walkthrough, and how to use the Windows command prompt, and the Metasploitable 3. You have to learn that because this is about Windows exploitation. You have to learn that, how you can download and configure and run and exploit. Everything is explained in this video. You have to learn that, and the basic usage of Nmap tool, which will be available here. And you have to know how to use the Searchsploit tool, and you have to know how to use FTP, and it includes a detailed FTP, but you only need a little understanding of that in this case, but it is better to have some more understanding by watching this video. So, and you have to know how to use Metasploit, you have to know SMB, and you have to know how to use the tool Hydra. WP scan is mandatory, and completing this HF 2019 one lab and DC1 one labs is highly essential. So after that you have some TreeHackMe labs for enhancing your skills and knowledge. So yeah, this is something I recommend you to complete. So if you complete all, you will have some good understanding of various vulnerabilities and all those things, because this is not highly essential, but this is recommended to have some more skills that you probably don't get from eJPT. So you need to have some another level of skills. So that's why I said that. So this scan was completed. The aggressive scan will result the anonymous FTP login alert. So anonymous FTP login alert pretty much means that you can just access the FTP without providing a username and password. If it allows anonymous login, then you can just provide the username or password as anonymous, then you will be able to get access into FTP, right? So that is what it means. So you have to understand that. And about WordPress, and you have to know how to use WordPress. If you get a WordPress website, how to use that, and you have to know about the webmin. So here in this case it's running on port 10,000. Webmin has a vulnerability, right? So you have to know about that also. So like that. So let me paste this and view the 10,000 port number where the webmin is running on. So yeah, you have to know if it is vulnerable or not, the vulnerabilities in webmin. And here you can see So this is it. So let's search this online for 1.890 exploits. So you have some information like unauthenticated remote code execution on web bin 1.920. In this case, it's 890. So like that, in your case, in your examination, I don't remember the version, but you have to know about webmin and all those things, which will be available somewhere. I'm not going to talk about that right now. So and you have to know about webmin. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. And this is basically the login page, login to webmin. Yeah, so you have to know that. Other than that, you have to know about the WordPress. Okay, in this case, let me access the port 80 where the WordPress running on. So here it is. So you have to know if you get a website, if it is running on WordPress, it will be available somewhere here. Other than that, you can just use tools like WhatWeb to get an understanding of what CMS or the technology that particular website is using. So in this case, WhatWeb was able to identify that it has WordPress, and it also able to identify the version of WordPress running on. And now you can just use the WP scan tool, and it is highly important to know the WP scan tool usage and all those things. How you can just use this tool, the detailed video will be available in our playlist, so you can just, I will just show you the basic usage. So you have to use this tool with the enumerate on, so that is good. Okay, so you have to use this with minus enumerate, which will gonna give you something that you probably want. And you have to know information about the themes, plugins, users in the WordPress by using this tool. So if you get an option to update in your lab environment, you can just say no, but in this case I have to update it so that it will work properly. But in your lab environment, you can just select no, because in your lab environment you don't have any internet connection. Okay, so in this case I just updated, and then it will work good in my case. Okay, in your lab environment you don't have to update. So you have to know information from this, like the themes used in this WordPress is 2017, like that. You have to find the plugins if it has one. So not every plugin will be listed in this tool. You have to use the scan accordingly. So in this case it's saying that no plugins found, but is it able to find any username? So unfortunately, I don't think so. So you can just use the WP scan with the another option, like the scanning aggressiveness. So let me view the help menu. So in the help menu, you do have the detection, like plugins detection mode. You can just put it into the aggressive so that it will detect better. Like I'm just detecting this in aggressive mode. Now it will detect the plugins in aggressive mode. To get more information about plugins, now you will be able to see enumerating vulnerable plugins via aggressive method. And I think there is only the WordPress theme found, but nothing like scan aborted. Number of plugins detected reached the threshold, and you do have some bad response. Now I just changed that into passive. Still the scan was completed, but it is aborted. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to just enumerate using minus e. Okay, so the basic way of using this tool is what I'm just demonstrating right now, and you have to know how to crack passwords and usernames. In this case, we are under error. So the number of themes detected reached the threshold of 20, which might indicate false positive. It would be recommended to exclude based option to ignore the. So yeah, let me use this scan aborted. Okay, I'm not going too deep into it, but you have to know how to use this tool, and you have to know if you find a username, then you have to know how to crack If you find a username, for example admin, you want to know that how you can just crack it using this WP scan tool, like user share word list rocket.txt. So this is how you can just perform a password cracking using the WP scan tool, right? So this is how you run it, right? So if you are in the exam environment, or if you are going to take the exam environment, just save this video somewhere. You can just watch. If you find any difficulty, if you want to know more about it, if you want to know how you can just pass the examination, if you are in the examination right now, then still don't skip the video and watch the video entirely, so that you will have some better understanding. Okay, so this is how you use this tool. And in your case, maybe the rocket.txt will have some rocket.txt.gz. You have to unzip that, so that is also something that you should know. Like you can issue the command sudo gunzip and the file to unzip that. You will be in the root directory, I think, so you don't have to use sudo, but it is recommended to use. It's your choice, nothing going to happen if you doesn't use it. So yeah, this is the best recommended command to unzip if you have the .gz in it. So yeah, that's why if you just skipped a 10-second of this video, you might probably miss what is important. So that's why it is highly recommended not to skip this video. So you have to know how you can just use this tool. That's pretty much about it, right? So other than that, you have to know how to use the Nmap scan for finding the version related information, like -sv is enough, but -a is sometimes enough. But you have to know how you can just understand if it is running on some MySQL or something like that, what is its version. If it is mixed up like this, if it is running in Apache, then you have to find that, you have to look into it, and you have to find sometimes the versions. If it is running on Apache, how many web servers running on Apache, like that you have to find this informations. And you also want to find the OS related information. Which OS is the target running on? Is it running on Windows? Is it running on Linux? Like that you have to know. So I'm also saying you that you can just use the Nmap scan if you want to identify a specific port. For example, you can just use the --open. That will help you a lot. If you want to know if port 21 is open in the target, then you can just use the --open. So it will only show the open port. So if you include -p21, it's also good. But in your case, maybe you will have a subnet to scan for. So that's the reason I just specified the --open, so that it will only give you ports or that is open on this subnet. If you don't use this, you will be able to see a lot of closed ports in this particular subnet in your examination. So that's why it is recommended to use this if you want to find a specific port open. Okay, you can see that this was open on these two services, like 29.50 is also open. Now I'm just performing just the script scanning, like -sc, which will perform the script scanning, right? So you can perform the aggressive scan, version scan, -sv, or the script scan, and you have to know how you have to use this -open. Sometimes it is helpful, and you can just use the -p to specify the port that you want to get results from. Okay, so these are something that you should definitely need to know. Okay, so other than that, you also need to know how to use the -o, the -O in Nmap, which will give you the operating system information. Sometimes it will not provide you what you want. Then you can just use the service version or aggressive scan, which will reveal you what you want, like to find the operating system or related informations. Okay, so that's something again that you should know. I can't demonstrate everything, but I will tell you everything that you should definitely need to know. Most of the things, I'm not saying that everything, but most of the things. Okay. So the script scan usually takes some time. It's about 96%. So in the meantime, I'm just browsing this IP in the browser. Now, oh my god, this is something that I think as of now I don't want. So let it run. So let me perform a scan again. Like I will also show you about net discover. Like you have to know about net discover. It's best to have, like not in the examination. Yeah, sometimes in examination and sometimes in your own knowledge, you have to know how to use this net discover tool. So this is how you use the net discover and the first three digits of your IP address, then 0/24. So I'm just stopping that, and I do have the 75 IP, so I'm just closing that. Here it is. So this is basically running on Drupal. You have to know about Drupal, the vulnerabilities in the Drupal, what is the most vulnerable Drupal, and how we can exploit Drupal, and a little bit about Drupal is recommended to know. And you also need to know how to use the tools like dir or Garbuster or dir search. So you can just, I think it's enough to have some little knowledge of dir, like dir space IP is enough. Okay, so that's it. So other than that, you also need to know about MSF console, like how you can just use the MSF console is somewhat mandatory. So you can just search for Drupal. So there will be a lot of Drupal related vulnerabilities. In this case, this is the vulnerability. In your case, it may be the same or maybe the different. So yeah, you know it, right? So it may be the same. So you can just try that out. The Drupal related vulnerabilities. In my case, I don't know, this is the error that I'm getting always from on my Metasploit, so I have to reload it again to get it work. So let it reload. In the meantime, let's have a look here. So here you can see some information. Sometimes you will be able to get some OS related information from the SMB itself. You can see it's running on Windows Server 2008 R2. So like that, you will be able to find OS related information from the SMB OS discovery script. So that's again something that you need to keep in mind. Okay, that's a part of Reconnaissance, right? So yeah, other than that, sometimes OS will be available at the end. So here in the SMB OS discovery reveals what is exactly it is, right? So this pretty much means that this is running on Windows. Like we have virus services, and you will be able to confirm that from the OS information from the script scanning, like that. Okay, so you have to analyze that. You have the capability to analyze those. So you have to find the versions. Sometimes it is really good. So now it's done. So let me search for the Drupal. So let me use this. Okay, oh my god, I think, yeah. Okay, that's it. So now I'm just entering options, and you have to know how you can just use a module. So if you get one, then I'm just saying set our host and the target IP, not the URL. After that, you can just hit run. So you have to check if lhost is set properly, and you have to check if your target is running on port 80. If it is running on some other ports, you have to specify there, and you have to check if the target is running on the root directory, or if it is running on some other directory, you have to specify that target URI here, otherwise you will get an error. So if it is running in root like this, then you don't have to change that. So now you can see the meter session 1 open. That pretty much means that we were able to gain access. When I list that, I was able to see all the files inside it. And you also need to know where is the config file stored or located in the Drupal. It will be in the sites, guys. So you have to know that, guys. So it will be in the sites, and it will be in the default. And in the default, in the settings.php, you will have the config file of Drupal. So this is where the location is. You have to know that also. Okay, so and in this config file, you have to find some information, and you also have to know how you can just use the MySQL. Here you have the credentials for the MySQL. I got the password, I got the username, and it's MySQL. Now I have to use the MySQL. So these are the credentials that I was able to get every time. I don't want to scroll these up, so you can just use a mouse pad or notepad. I highly recommend you to have a notepad in your Windows, in your local machine, not inside your hacking Okali machine. Never store anything inside that. If anything happens, if you want to reset lab environment, this will go off. So you have to store everything in your own Windows VM. Okay, in this case, I'm just storing it here. not in Windows environment, but in your examination you have to store it outside. Okay, so and you have to know how you can access MySQL. So you can't access it in Meterpreter. In this case I'm just entering shell. Now in the shell I can just search for the spawn TDY website. So this is something you can't search in your lab environment. This is something that you can search outside your lab environment, like in your Windows. You have to copy the Python. If it is Python is not working, then you can just use this one. Okay, and paste it there. So in this case Python 3 is not working. In your case it may be different. So in this case I think Python will work, and now it will work. That pretty much means that we got a dollar symbol here. So now when I know who am I'm just double data. So anyways, now we have the credentials. Now you have to know how you can access the MySQL. MySQL -e for the user, and -p, and not specifying any password, and the password which will be available here. Here it is. I'm just copying and paste the password. That's it. Now I have access to MySQL. Now you have to know how you can just use the MySQL. Like first, if you gain access, then you have to enter show databases. Oh my god, I just spelled it wrong. So let me correct that. Okay, after that you will be able to get the database information. So in this case, if I want to use a database, I can just use the command use. Simple code. This is how I just use the database. Now I can just enter show tables to. In the database you will have a lot of tables. So yeah, show table semicolon, which will reveal the tables inside the database. And in this case what I want is the user tables, which will contain some user informations. To view that, I'll be using the select command, select star from the table that you want to view, and a semicolon at the end. So which will reveal the user related information, which will contain the user, password hash of the user, mail ID of the user, like that. So you have to know how you can just use some MySQL, and how you can access database, how we can view table, how you can view the users table or something like that. That is what I'm demonstrated in this video. So this is mandatory. After that I'm just exiting. You can just use the exit command. Okay, if you want to exit from here also, control Z and Y, which will lead you to the Meterpreter again. Okay, so this is something that you have to know. And other than that, you also have to know about finding the SUID bits for privilege escalation for becoming the root user. So let me show you once more. Like I've been using that again, and now I'm just using the find command /-perm for permission, -u equal to s for SUID, u greater /dev/null. You can just use this command for getting things like these for performing the privilege escalation, right? So you have to know this, and you can just search things like from user bin, from the find. In this case I'm just going to search this on the website called GTFO bins, which has a curated list of binaries. So in the find I've been going to use the SUID, because this is what I get from the find command. So just paste that, and I'm unable to become root. So in your case you may use SUID or this one or whatever it is. In this case it's this, I use this to get root in this case, but in your case it may be different. Okay, so you have to check that out. So I am now root. Now I can just access any directory that I would like to access, right? So you have to know how you can just use this tool, and this is why I highly recommend you to watch this video till the end without skipping, even if you are in the examination or if you are going to take the examination. Make sure to watch this video till the end so that you will have an understanding of how you can just use various tools and techniques. Okay, now I'm just moving to another window. Now I am going to show you about the curl tool. Sometimes if in some scenarios, in my case, I'm not able to view a web page, so I'm not able to browse that particular web page. For example, in our case, I think the port 10,000, which will be available somewhere in the Nmap scan, somewhere I think here, the port 10,000 on this IP, right? The webmin, right? So I'm not able to access this, right? So here, let me check if webmin is here in this. No, this is not webmin is. So the webmin will be located in 30, I think, in the 30s IP. Okay, it's now loading, nothing happening like that. If you get something, then you can just use the curl command to output that into a file that you would like to output. I'll be using this command for outputting that file. In this case is a directory. I'm just entering ASDF as the file name. Now you can just save this web page into this particular file that you give, and it will save the entire page into this. Now you are not able to access this page, right? So what you can do now is to use the curl command to output into a file like this, and or else you can just use this command for accessing that particular page. So sometimes this will be helpful. Like this you will be able to get the page HTML, so you have to find information from there. So yeah, in this case it is taking a lot of time, but in your case maybe sometimes you won't be able to get a lot of time to this to complete. Okay, so I'm just outputting the page to this file, so it is taking time. In your case it may not take time. If it's done now, you can just issue the command Firefox, then the file name that you created to view that particular web page. Okay, so this is something that I'm giving as an extra tip to have to you. Okay, so other than that, you also have to know about using tools like the hydra. So hydra is again important, how you can just use the hydra tool for performing brute force. Like hydra, if you have a username, then you can specify -l and the username. If you don't have a password, you can specify -P. For specifying the password list, it will be in the user share word list docu.txt. If you want to crack SMP, then you can just specify the IP, in this case 192.168.29.30, and let me put the dot. And if you are going to crack SMB, you can just end the SMB here. If you want to get information about the RDP, then you can just enter RDP here. So one thing that I'm just giving it to you is, if SMB is not working, if you get credentials, if SMB is not working, then you can just use the RDP. So this is an important part. If you skip a 30-second or 10-second of this video, you might miss the important part. Okay, so that's why I highly recommend not to skip this video. So you can see this is about it. Then you also need to use about know how to use the X-free RDP tool, so which is again a great tool. Like you can just view the help menu to have a better understanding of how you can just use this tool. So here it is. Like this is it. So you can just use this tool by specifying the username that you discovered like this, and password that you discovered like this, and the host that you want to connect. Okay, so this will be an IP address or a domain name. Okay, so this is something too that you should know, how you can just use this tool to gain RDP. In your examination there may be RDP, so you have to know how you can just get access. You can just use the Remina or whatever tool that you would like to use. I don't remember if Remina is available in the examination, then I will recommend you to use this tool, X-free RDP. This is good. Okay, you have to know how to use this tool. Okay, so I included a lot of things that you wanted to study, wanted to know, and you also need to know a little bit of more. So yeah, let's move on. You also need to know about the tools like enum for Linux, how you can just use this enum for Linux, and -a for enumerating all information. So, and the target IP of yours, it will contain any SMB related things. You have to use that to get information about it. Okay, enum for Linux -a and the target IP. So in our case, let's say the 192.168.29.50. Like that, you will get some user related information. So some other information from the enum for Linux tool, you have to know how you can just use this tool. And you also need to know the, about the SMB client tool, which is also again a good tool that you have and understand, like //IP. And if you want to list the shares, then you can just use the -l. If you want to access a share, then you can just use //IP/ the share that you want to access. You have to know how to use this SMB client tool. If you're just confused, then you can just watch our playlist, which included how you can just use SMB and a lot more about SMB from this pen testing SMB like a pro video. You can just check those playlist, and I highly recommend you to complete the entire playlist from our playlist section and complete all the walkthroughs. Try to do it alone. If you get stuck, then watch these walkthroughs and try to do everything alone, guys. So if you don't have premium, then complete the free try hack me rooms. Okay, so that's good. Other than that, you also need to know what is a CIDR and what is a DMC. Like that, you have to know, you have to research this about some basic understanding of what this means. So you can just research that online and you will get an understanding of what it is. You have to know that, guys, so that is good to have. Then in the Meterpreter, you have to know about the tool autoroute. So in the eJPT material, you will have a lab environment telling you about the autoroute command. I'm just exiting from here, exiting again. So now I'm just in the Meterpreter. So okay, and in the Meterpreter, you have to know how to use the autoroute and the -s or the IP. Right, so you have to know how you can just use this tool, and yeah, you have to complete the practical lab that they provided about using this tool. You have to focus on this. Okay, so you just need to know how you can just perform this and all those things. So I highly recommend you to complete the practical eJPT certifications learning path, which includes a lab which contains this auto route tool. You have to complete that particular path. Okay, so other than that, you also need to know about the Meterpreter and some of the Windows commands which I included that. So you can also know how you can just background this and use things like the search for the HTTP underscore version for HTTP version related information. You can just use this module for getting the version information. If you have a target, if you want to find the version of HTTP, then you can just use that command. So let me copy the target IP. In this case, it's Drupal 75. And sometimes you won't be able to find in pivoting scenarios, you won't be able to get an information about this. So you can just use this HTTP version module to get the version information about our target, right? Like that, if you want to know the version of some other services, you can just search for that also from here. Okay, if you want to know the version of SSH, then you can just search for SSH underscore version, like that. So you can just find that. You can just change the port if you want. If HTTP is not running on port 80, if it is running on some other port, you have to set the port number to that particular specific port. And other than that, you also need to know how to use the Searchsploit tool, which is again important of using this tool for finding vulnerabilities. It's like for example webmin. So webmin has a lot of vulnerability existing, right? So sometimes you have to use this. If you want to use this, it's basically an sh script, right? So if you want to download this, then you can just use the Searchsploit -m and this one ID itself. So now I was able to download this. Now I can just open that out. So this is the script itself. So you can just use this script. So using the bash command, you can just use this script like this. So you have to know how you can just download from the Searchsploit -m the ID number to download that particular thing. If it is in Python, then you can just use the Python 3 command for accessing that. If it is in bash or .sh, you can just download and using the bash command or / the file name by giving the execute permission, like chmod +x will give you the execute permission to that particular file. After that, you can just run that file using / the file name. Okay, so you can also use the bash command, which is also good. Okay, so this is how you can just use that. The dedicated video representing how you can just use the Searchsploit tool and all those things which will be available in our channel. Never miss that. Watch that video entirely without skipping. Okay, other than that, you also need to know about the So I think in this case I'm been Windows, right? So I've been going to use the MSF 17010. I'm just going to use this one, and I'm just setting the R host. Okay, after that, let me run that. You also need to know some other modules like the ps-exec module. So not this one, but the ps-exec module, you have to know about it. Okay, so that's why I'll be telling some important things somewhere in the video. If you skip a 10-second part or a 5-second part, you will miss the important parts. So if you watch this video entirely, then you will have some understanding. So maybe this one will not work in your exam environment. You have to use the ps-exec module with the credentials that you obtained, and you have to know how to use hydra tool, getting the SMB related credentials, like that. So now you can see it's running. So once we get access, I will show you what are the things that you need to know in Windows environment. Like as I mentioned before, you have to know how you can just use the Windows command prompt, the basic commands that you should know in the Windows, and all those things will be available here. Okay, it's filed. Let me start this out. So how you can just configure and practice this one, I also made a video about that, which will be available in the playlist. Okay, so just log in. Okay, now I'm just in. So now we are in the Windows. So now I'm just sending shell command. Now the ls commands won't work. Sometimes ls won't work. In this case it's working, but you have to know that sometimes ls won't work. You have to use the dir command for listing the files. To view a file, you can just use the tape command. If you have a flag like flag.txt, you can just issue the tape command to view that particular file in the command prompt. If you're in Windows, you can just use the dir to list the files, tape to view the file, and like that you have to know some basic commands. Okay, and that's why I have this dedicated video for you. So other than that, you also need to know about the system info command, which will give you information about the system, like the hot fixes in the system and some other information. So let it run. Okay, now you can see the hotfix. There will be 2 hotfix installed, 2 updates installed in this, and some other information about the host name in this case, right, and the OS name and the OS version, and some other information about your mission, which will be available here, right? So yeah, you have to know how the purpose of system info command and what are the information you will get from the system info command. In Windows, you have to use the dir command for listing and tape command for viewing that particular file that you would like to view, and as usual cd is for changing directory and all those things. Okay, so this is something that you should know in terms of Windows. And the another thing that I want to tell you is, in a lab environment you will have 45 questions, right? So as you know that you will have 45 questions. Okay, the questions will be somewhat mixed questions. So if you are not able to answer the question 1, then what you need to do is to pin the question and move to the next one. Okay, so if you can't answer the next one, pin the question and move to next one. Like that you can just skip that and answer some other questions. If you answer some other questions, you will get an idea of what the answer of the first question will be. Like that you can just skip some of the questions that you don't understand or that you don't know how to solve, and move to the next questions and solve all questions that you know. After that, come back to the previous questions. So this is a plus point, this is a tip that I'm just giving for you guys. In your exam you have 45 questions, right? If you can't answer question 1 or 2 or whatever a question number is, you can just move to some other questions and answer to those questions. Okay, so yeah, I just not saying that if you can't answer question 1, go to 45. Not like that. If you can't answer question 1, go to 2, try a lot. If you can't answer that, then go to 3, like that, one by one. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. So if you were able to answer 2 or 3, maybe you will be have a hint of what is the answer of 1, like that. Okay, so I hope you understand that. If you have any doubts, comment down below. Okay, and take notes of the informations that you are getting, because your terminal will be messed up like this, and you have to find some of the informations that you performed previously. If you want to answer the IP of Windows machine, so you will have a lot of things in your terminal, and to find the IP of Windows machine, that will be somewhat difficult. In that case, you can just use the Control Shift F and search here called Windows. Now you will be able to get that particular thing, right? So like that, you can just use the Control Shift F for finding the contents from the terminal itself. Okay, so this is again something that I'm just giving you as a tip for finding things. And if you find something like a password or something like that, note this in your Windows notepad. So that is what I'm just recommending to you. Okay, not use don't use the inbuilt mousepad or something like that inside that particular Kali Linux, but use the word list outside that Linux system. Okay, so you also need to know how you can just access the FTP anonymous access and all those things. You also need to know about the PSExec module. So I'm just showing that. I'm just backgrounding this, and you can just search for the PSExec. And here it is. So yeah, you have to know how you can just use this module, and you have to know about this module. You have to specify the password or username that you discovered and use this module. Sometimes it will help you to gain access. Okay. These are some of the tips that I'm just giving it to you to pass this examination. So this will help you a lot. So I think I told you a lot of things that helps you to pass the examination. And other than that, I am also giving you some more skill related contents from our playlist itself, which will include a lot of things that you probably need to practice and gain some hands-on experience for further improving your skills. And in some scenarios in the Metasploit, you have the ARP scanning support. Let me show you that. Okay, in the Metasploit, you can just use the run ARP scanner, okay, to find IP addresses. So you can just use the run ARP scanner in the Metasploit. In some Metasploit, not in Metasploit, in the Meterpreter. In some scenarios, the Meterpreter you won't be able to run the ARP scanner. Some of these doesn't work, but in some Meterpreter you will be able to run the ARP scan like this. Okay, so in this case it's not working, but in the Meterpreter that you might getting access may support this or may not support this, but there is a Meterpreter that support this. So yeah, this is somewhat helpful for solving some of the challenges. So yeah, so other than that, I think I covered a lot of things. Okay, so that's the end of this video, guys. I think I covered a lot of things. I think this video helped you to learn a lot, and this video definitely help you to pass the examination. So if you watch this video without skipping, if you watch this video entirely without skipping and understand the concept, then you will definitely gonna pass this examination, guys. So you also need to complete these labs, and you also need to know about these tools and complete all the walkthroughs and try to do all those things alone. If you can't do, then watch this walkthrough and understand the concept, and try to read this and try to solve all those challenges that I demonstrated here. You can just keep that some premium TryHackMe labs. If you don't have premium, it's okay, then you can just complete all those free TryHackMe rooms. And I highly recommend you to complete the HF 2019 and DC1 from the Vuln Hub, which is also helpful for you to have some understanding. Okay, if you complete all those things, if you watch this video also, then you can just definitely need to pass this examination, guys. So these are the information that as of now I'm just providing to you, and there will be some Telegram groups also there to provide you helpful materials of chats available. That is something that you should explore. So yeah, that's pretty much about it, guys. I hope this video is really informative for you. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye bye.